Okay, our next member of the public is
should be
Thomas Chase. So you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yes, Thomas Chase of 6 Clinton Place, Millburn. Yeah, I guess I wanted to make one observation about some of the questions I guess the committee members had about what you're being asked to do. And my understanding, and Mr. Buzak or Beth can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the planning committee tonight is being asked to implement a housing element and fair share plan that satisfies the minimum requirements of the settlement agreement. One of the things that took a lot of people by surprise when the settlement agreement was made public was the disparity in density ratios in the different areas in town. As noted, the commercial and manufacturing office area below ShopRite has a density now of 18, or a proposed density under this plan of 18, whereas the place on Millburn Avenue up the street next to the Annie Says has double that. And I think a lot of people were scratching their heads as to how these numbers that seem arbitrary were adopted. What you're being asked to do tonight is adopt a plan that has the minimum element or density ratios in the settlement. There's nothing preventing this committee from making those density ratios more equitable and increasing the density ratios in some other areas that are logical areas for further development. As was pointed out, why in the central downtown area is the density only 25 per acre, whereas up the street at Annie Says it's 40. Doesn't really make much sense. And there has been no study or any sustained examination other than just sort of the committee's gut instinct this summer prior to reaching the settlement agreement that those disparities that exist now make any sense at all. Nobody's looked at traffic, nobody's looked at commercial demand, nobody's looked at really anything at any substantive level. So this committee certainly has the ability to increase densities in other areas where it makes more sense, or even other areas outside of the plan entirely to make this plan more equitable. And I note in the prior action that you took back in 2018, which was the last housing element and fair share plan, the densities were entirely equitable. The CMO area below ShopRite was 10 units per acre. The area on Main Street, which is the Annie Says property, from the Annie Says property down to like the PetSmart area, that was 10 units per acre. And the area along Morris Avenue was 10 units per acre. So the last time you looked at it, you came up with an equitable allocation. So I think you want to ask yourself why this time you're doing something much different, and why.
Thank you. I don't want to cut you off. Do you have further?
No, that's the
Okay.
That's the statement and the question.
Great. Thank you. I just want to offer one item as a response, and I appreciate the concerns raised. While I agree the most recent fair share housing plan was developed in 2018, as was categorized in this meeting, and then subsequently revised as outlined by Ms. McManus and Ed as well. I just wanted to make sure you may or may not be aware of a Millburn downtown vision plan, which was conducted, and while it's somewhat unrelated, it still covers the area. You're asking some specific questions regarding our downtown. That was a plan that was completed in 2021 by the community. It's available, which took stakeholder and public input and is available on the Millburn Township website, which did look at some of the items that you're bringing up in terms of density, as well as traffic and circulation. So I do invite you to see some of that thinking, which I believe it also factors into kind of where we are at with the plan today. But I also open it up to our professionals if we had any additional comments or responses for Mr. Chase.
I mean, I'll concur. The planning board can always go above and beyond the minimum, or the governing body can go above and beyond the minimums in the settlement agreement if they chose to increase the density. It's certainly not required, though.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chase, for your comments.
Thanks.